Hey, welcome back to the About the Labor podcast here at VikingsTerritory.com. I am BJ Reidell, back here with my guy, Drew Mahowald, and today we're talking about the NFC North champion Minnesota Vikings coming out with a big W today over the Cincinnati Bengals. I believe it was 34-7 was the final. I was in attendance today, so to be quite honest with you, my voice is a little raspy, and it's, it's going to be tough. So,
really?
Please bear with me a little bit here, let's jump right into it here with a word from our sponsor here. This is from Can Wonderland here. Can Wonderland is a one-of-a-kind Twin Cities experience. Pack up the kids and check out the coolest indoor mini golf course in Minnesota. Don't worry, there are plenty of creative cocktails and artisan pizza for the adults. Don't forget to stop by Black Stack Brewing. That's right next door, by the way. Upstairs for a couple beers after mini golf. Can Wonderland, Black Stack Brewing, both spots. Two spots that make the Twin Cities the best cities on earth, and I think the Vikings proved that today, actually.
Yes.
So that's a good script there. We appreciate that. It says insert something personal afterwards, which is pretty funny. So I just instinctively did that. So
there, good.
That's
what a good ad reader does.
Yeah.
Good ad reader does that.
All right, so let's start off here with the quarterback position. Obviously, we have two quarterbacks to talk about today. So, as much as I love Teddy Bridgewater, love seeing him out there, the focus today has got to be Case Keenum. And, for the rest of the season, it's going to be Case Keenum. I think Teddy Bridgewater actually made that explicitly clear after the game today.
Yeah.
So, Case Keenum's performance today was phenomenal as far as I'm concerned. I believe he went into the half at like 13 for 15 or something like that. Critically accurate. The very first play of the game, I thought Geno Atkins got in his face and he kind of sort of tumbled over a little bit, and it was it was a weird Case Keenum moment, but he rebounded immediately from that. I believe that was the first big play from Latavius Murray on the day immediately after that to get the first down back and kind of reset the script for the Vikings. And from my vantage point, which was up in the nosebleed seats, that was the turning point in the game right there. It came on play number 2. Vikings basically got hit in the mouth, and they turned around, and Case Keenum did his thing. So what'd you think of Case Keenum today? How'd you feel about his overall performance? And
Yeah, I thought Case Keenum was, again, I keep saying this every single week because I think it's true. I think he was Case Keenum. I think Pat Shurmur did a really good job today of making it easy for him because I believe, I looked at a stat, I think this is from Pro Football Focus today. They said, I believe the number was 186 of his 233 passing yards were after the catch. So he did not throw a lot of footballs down the field. And what happened was the running backs and receivers that made these catches were getting yards after catch, and they were given opportunities to make plays with their feet rather than Case Keenum making them with his arm, which isn't a knock on Case Keenum.
Right.
He obviously played really, really well, but I think it was just, you had the Latavius Murray screen right away. You had Adam Thielen on that short drag route right away for a big, I think, 20-something yard gain. You had Jerick McKinnon a couple times for long gains after the catch.
Absolutely.
I think the one throw I was really that I really took notice of was the Stephon Diggs touchdown.
For sure.
Fitting it in between the I believe it was the corner and the safety there. It looked like either cover 1 or cover 3, and Keenum fitted in there on, I believe, a 20-yard touchdown. So that was kind of the one throw for me today that I was really, really impressed with. But otherwise, I thought it was just he executed the game plan really well, made the right decisions, and that's what you want out of a quarterback when you have this kind of team around you,
right,
and a defense that can effectively shut out the opposing offense with the exception of one late garbage time drive.
Absolutely. You look at what Case Keenum did today, and I think there's going to be a lot of people out there. This is an assumption based off what I see regularly. I'm not trying to insult anyone's intelligence, but I think there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to call him a dink and dunker and say that he, was successful today because of his teammates, guys like McKinnon. Yeah. You said guys like Stephon Diggs.
Well,
who had a couple
people have
catches.
Watched him throughout the season, they know he's not a dink and dunker,
right?
Because
and that's
he's. We noticed that in the preseason even, that he's not afraid to sling it down the field if he thinks he has a chance. And today was just kind of an odd, it was rare in the way he played because usually that's not the case.
Well, you made – no pun intended.
Oh, gosh. That wasn't intended, actually. So it actually wasn't intended.
Yeah, you made the point before that, when you have a strong defense like the Vikings obviously do, you don't necessarily need to have those ballsy throws. Mike Zimmer, obviously earlier this season said that Case Keenum has huge balls, which probably quote of the year, right? Probably.
Yeah.
And so for Case Keenum to, come out there and, he did have a really dumb throw that almost got picked off. And I think it was the first series or second series of the game where he threw downfield once again, just like he did in Carolina, into basically double or triple coverage. Again, I was up in the nosebleeds. I'm watching from the all 22 angle from up top, but like at the same time, I can't always make out exactly what's going on. But so what I saw from him is basically he got smarter as the game went on. He started being smarter with the football as the Vikings continue to pile on the score. I mean, the best way to get an opposing team back in the game is to give them a huge momentum swing. Throw an interception to a linebacker in coverage and have them turn it into 6 points, something like that maybe. That's a really good way to knock yourself out of a football game really, really fast. So for me, I thought Case Keenum was fantastic. I mean, he did his job to a T, and like you said, Pat Shurmur certainly set him up well. He gave him the opportunity to get those check down routes, and basically I understand that the check down isn't a quote hard throw to make. But for the record, it is a difficult throw to make with someone with their hand in your face. It's not easy to do. These aren't throws that I can make or you can make or Drew can make. Unless you're maybe Case Keenum listening to this, then you could probably make this throw. But my point being here is that those aren't easy throws all the time. And they're basically what he was able to do is get his guy in space. And at the end of the day, football is a game about space. It's 11 on 11. Your goal is to create as much space for your guys to manipulate the defense, or if you're on the defensive side of the ball, it's clogging space. Linval Joseph is that's why I call Linval Joseph a clogger. So I thought Case Keenum was phenomenal. I really do. I thought that he gave Jerick McKinnon, Latavius Murray, Stephon Diggs, even Adam Thielen. Kyle Rudolph had a touchdown today, despite I think a lot of myself included did not expect him to play today. He gave his guys an opportunity, and that's kind of just what Case Keenum does, and that's why he is the starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I think that's just that's the way I think the way Pat Shurmur has really constructed this offense this season has been, I think, the biggest revelation for this team because we knew that the Vikings had an elite defense. We knew all these playmakers on the defensive side. We knew Mike Zimmer was an excellent play caller and defensive schemer. We knew all of that, but we did not know about what this offense had in store this year. It was kind of the wild card of this team. Whether you're talking about Sam Bradford before the season with Dalvin Cook, or you're talking about right now with Case Keenum and Latavius Murray, Jerick McKinnon, kind of holding down the quarterback, running back spots. It was kind of unknown how well the Vikings would perform, and I think Pat Shurmur is really, showing that he does not need elite personnel necessarily at those two positions to thrive. And I think another example was just today. I mean, and I think if there's one knock I have on Shurmur, it's that he has a very strong tendency to run screens on second and long, that's a clear, that's a solid play call for that situation. But specifically today, I remember that first 2nd and 18 after the first sack of the game, screen to Murray. The next series, or maybe two after, 2nd and 19, screen to C.J. Ham. And then they went back to Jet actually on another 2nd and long right after that. So that's the one knock I have on him. But again, he's designing these plays well enough, and he has the personnel like Pat Elflein who will get downfield and make those blocks that even if it is somewhat of a tell on 2nd and long.
Right.
They can still be effective, and he has the personnel and the design to get it done. So I think Pat Shurmur deserves a ton of credit. Again, we keep saying this, I think, on every show, but I think it's worth stating again how effective Pat Shurmur's scheme and his play calling has been this season, because I think that's kind of what has lifted this team from middle of the road, possibly making the playoffs at a 9-7, 10-6 record, whatever it was you predicted at the beginning of the season, to first round bye caliber team.
Absolutely. Pat Shurmur has been, a huge difference maker for this team. You could make an argument, I think, that today was, one of his finest performances of the entire season, honestly. Once again, just putting his guys in position to do their thing, and then the Vikings go out and execute. That's what makes a great team, guys. You don't, Packers fans probably hate hearing this. I mean, Drew probably hates hearing this, I suppose, that, the Packers aren't winning this year because their offense is built entirely around Aaron Rodgers. And when Aaron Rodgers went down, it screwed everything up. I mean, even the offensive line. You saw David Bakhtiari and Brian Balaga. I mean, they've taken a step back this year just because they're not used to blocking for Brett Hundley. It's such a chemistry. The sport requires so much chemistry and so much time, and that's why they practice so much, and that's why they do extra stuff off the field that are not required, I suppose, by their coaching staff, just to build that chemistry. Because if you want to win football games, at the end of the day, you got to have 53 guys all on the same page. For example, you see guys like Jaron Kearse step up today on special teams. Like guys that are just, if all 53 guys are working hard and they're all in sync with the same goal and the same dream, I suppose, which is what I see from this Vikings team, and part of the reason why I don't think anyone's going anywhere anytime soon, despite guys like Dalvin Cook coming back and Pat Shurmur probably going to have a million head coaching offers, stuff like that, is that they all have the same mentality right now. They're all trying to win football games. That's what they care about, and this team is definitely doing that right now. Case Keenum is arguably the biggest part of that right now. He deserves MVP votes. I don't care what people say. I think Adam Thielen also deserves MVP votes. Don't get me wrong. But, it's a travesty if Case Keenum doesn't get votes just because he's the third string quarterback. He's playing like a starter at this point, and he's doing his thing. So, I'm proud of this team, and it's so much fun to watch, and there's a reason why I lost my voice, It was exciting stuff. So, speaking of exciting things, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna make a transition actually to the Teddy Bridgewater discussion, because you were talking about how much you love the team and everything, and I thought of Case Keenum essentially leading the Teddy chants for the crowd
on offense, by the way. Yeah, while the Jumbotron said, "Please be quiet," offense at work.
No, you didn't see this because you were at the game, but they showed Teddy, putting his hands over the ear holes of his helmet, like trying so hard to hear the play call, and he definitely couldn't hear it because the place was so loud saying his name. But that's we could spend an entire show talking about the recovery Teddy Bridgewater's made, and how he wasn't supposed to play maybe ever again, and he was back, and he really could have played 5 weeks ago if the Vikings felt it was warranted. But and obviously the performance on the field did not go exactly as he planned. I think there's serious rust there, but that's not what's important right now. The fact that he was able to come back, and the ovation, the support from his teammates,
dude,
and the way he handled it afterwards too. I think it shows how much of it really is a team, and there's nobody putting themselves ahead of the team. It just seems like and this is very cliche, but it really does seem like this team really wants to do it for everybody, including everybody on the team, and not just not one person trying to get the next contract, or one person trying to get et cetera, their individual goals. It just seems like it's a team oriented task that is being accomplished here. So
here, this is something that is a little bit off topic from Teddy Bridgewater, but it goes along with what you were saying about cliches. I was thinking about this while I was a little bit intoxicated up in the stands. I think this is a really good idea. I mean, you guys could be the judge of that, I guess. But I was thinking about how how players always speak in cliches after the game. They almost always they basically have thank you God, or thanks my teammates, that kind of stuff. I don't know how cliche that actually is. I think it's just repetitive. It's redundant almost, because they're saying the same thing every week, but they're also telling you a message. It's a subliminal message almost. They're when a player says like I screwed up, it's because he's not going to put it on his teammates because he's a good team player. Or if he explains the situation to you, like for example, if they say something like what happened on that interception, and Case Keenum says something like, I threw off my back foot, and I didn't make a good decision. That's not really a cliche. That's really what happened. It's just you need to look into the words they're saying, because these guys are in the public eye. They need to be careful. They need to be smart. They don't want to get fined. Some of these guys aren't making millions yet. Some of them are making $100,000s, and if you get an $80,000 fine, that's a large sum of your income. And as someone who is just now kind of learning how to manipulate his financial situation, I'm here to tell you that you speak in cliches because you're scared of the media. You don't want them to misquote you or whatever. And I just think that to a degree, I don't want to say old. I'm going to say old school here, not old as in age. I think old school journalism. It doesn't give players the opportunity to be themselves all the time. It doesn't allow them to be so candid. It doesn't allow them to be marketable, and that's why that's why the guy behind the helmet is so hard to see sometimes. Because I mean, do you blame some of these guys for being afraid of the media? Like seriously, they're
Sam Bradford.
Yeah, I mean, there are people there are companies, and TMZ is probably the best example of this that literally they literally headhunt players.
Well, how often do you hear a former player come out and say, well, geez, if the media, if we had Twitter, if we had this and that, 25 years ago when I played, I would never had a career in football or whatever.
Right. Dude, people are not using social media the right way, and I think I said this a million different times to my buddies at the tailgate today. I just think that fans and players need to be connected in a better way. This is an 11-3 football team right now, and I'm sure there are some negatives going on. I'm sure there are some relationships in the locker room that just aren't great. There are probably you're not friends with everybody. I always like to say that I'm personally a 60-40 guy. Either you buy into what I'm doing or you think I'm, a piece of what for being a loudmouth. And that's fine with me, and most players are okay with that as well. But the fact is there's 53 guys in that locker room, and not all 53 of them like each other, straight up. That's just how it's going to be. That's probability. That's odds.
But they all have the same goal.
They all have the same goal, and they all have the same respect for each other. And that's what's important here. And I think that, media guys, they need to respect that as well. I mean, we don't need to talk about Mike Floyd's DUI anymore. That's done. That's over. It's been done. He doesn't want to hear about it anymore. Even guys like Joe Mixon. Do we need to talk about the fact that he didn't keep his hands to himself in college anymore? No, because he's been, as far as I'm concerned, a model citizen since he got to the NFL, which is what you ask for when you draft a guy and basically say we need a change of character from this guy in order for you to play in professional football. So for me, these cliches that the players use after the game, and the reason why they're becoming more and more candid is because I think that players are becoming more and more comfortable with the situation, and that's kind of what comes with winning. Winning will do that to you. It gives you optimism. It gives you hope. And it gives you a real reason to buy into the strategy that's working. And obviously whatever Mike Zimmer is doing, I can try to nitpick it as much as I want, but I can't get into his head. So I think that it's important right now for everyone to just straight up trust the process because, Joel Embiid style. Because if you just look at this team right now, even with a couple stupid penalties today, even with a couple dumb mistakes, even with, in my opinion, a poor decision to play Kyle Rudolph at all this week, this team is winning football games, and they're winning convincingly now. So what else do you guys need, I suppose? Is there a negative after today's game? I don't know.
I mean, no. I mean, you're reaching, I think, if you have one. I mean, I can think of a few things to be, slightly concerned about, but as far as a negative that you are extremely worried about that might cause a loss in the playoffs or something along those lines, I don't think there's anything. But I don't know. I mean, I just think that if, depending on how far this Vikings team gets, which I think could be very far, I think we're going to look back at that Case Keenum, trying to get the crowd up, starting the Teddy chant. That's going to be the iconic moment for me of this season. I guess regardless of how the season ends, I'm going to look back at that and kind of think about how much fun this team is. I do think there's several weeks left. There's definitely more than 3 weeks left of this season, I think, for the Vikings. So, there's going to be more, but I just think that's going to be. I think we're all going to look back at that moment and kind of it'll bring back some good memories, regardless of how this season ends. That was just the one thing I wanted to bring up regarding the quarterbacks. I don't know if you had anything to add on Teddy. Because
he threw 2 footballs today, so let's talk about those 2 footballs that he threw. The first one, it was intercepted. I know, and I wasn't reading Twitter so much as I was.
What was your reaction to that, by the way? Because I when I saw it, I just laughed. I was like, that's so perfect. I just laughed.
So first of all, I'm going to tell you a mini story real quick because I think this was hilarious. So the reason why I sat up in the nosebleeds today is because I love the atmosphere up there. It's basically like a a who cares atmosphere. Everyone's very fun up there, and on top of it, it's a very comfortable situation for when you're tailgating. A lot of people up there are also on the same level as you. So there's this dude that was at the tailgate, and he's not like one of my good buddies. He's actually a guy that I met relatively recently, but he got absolutely flattened during the tailgate, and so he fell asleep like mid third quarter up in the nosebleeds. I mean, per standard, and he woke up, and I heard him wake up, and he goes, he literally verbatim quote, he goes, "Teddy Bridgewater's in? How long have I been asleep for?" And I was absolutely lost my mind. I was absolutely dying because it was unreal, because he fell asleep like mid third quarter while Keenum was playing extremely well, and obviously his impression was just to see Teddy on the field, hear the Teddy chants, and just think, what did Case Keenum do wrong, when really it was just a situation where the Vikings were winning by so much that Teddy finally got his opportunity to do his thing. So my reaction to that interception was I tried to analyze it as best as I can. Like I said, I had the all-22 angle today, so I got the opportunity to do some research in real time. And what I saw after replay on the big board and stuff like that was that Teddy Bridgewater had some happy feet, and I don't.
He did.
I don't blame him, dude. I mean, like you said, he's got his hands over the head, like he's trying to figure out what's going on. He's trying to like keep himself level-headed in a situation where I personally would have lost my mind. I would have been crying. I would have been jacked. There's so many emotions that go through your head right there. I can't relate to Teddy Bridgewater on his situation, but I can relate to him on the idea of being really, really excited about something and being so happy to have it finally happen. I can relate to him on that type of thing. So for me, sometimes your initial reaction is jitters, and Teddy Bridgewater went to reset his feet on that interception. He didn't get to.
I think he reset his feet like 3 or 4 times in a span of like a second and a half.
And, right, and when he actually tried to make the throw, he threw kind of, his feet were parallel to his shoulders. Does that make sense? Yeah, his feet were parallel to his shoulders when he threw that ball, so he kind of threw off his back foot a little bit, and that's, to me. Again, I'm not a football coach. I just listen to football coaches talk. That, to me, tells me that he threw the ball high because he threw off his back foot. Generally speaking,
let it kind of float on him a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what happened. So, that's a play where do you hope – I think it was Murray. I believe it was Murray, right?
It was McKinnon that dropped it. Or went off McKinnon's hands.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a play that obviously you hope McKinnon makes. Is he's also 5'8", so you can't airmail that guy. So did Teddy Bridgewater make a mistake there on the first play? Yeah. Is there rationale behind the mistake itself? Absolutely. Should you take too much away from that interception? Should you start going on Twitter telling people that Teddy Bridgewater sucks and that he should never have been the starter and all of us are crazy for thinking that he was a good quarterback to begin with? Guys, come on. It's one throw.
I'll ask you this, because I have some conflicting feelings about this.
Okay.
If Case Keenum does get hurt, hypothetically, again, we do not want that to happen.
Right. Do we have to say that anymore?
Are you comfortable with Teddy Bridgewater? Like, after the way he played today, because he didn't seem comfortable in the pocket. That's what I'm asking. I don't want to keep talking about Teddy Bridgewater over and over, because he threw 2 passes and it's more or less irrelevant. But that's just how would you feel like, divisional round of the playoffs, Case goes down and Teddy's got to come in, they're down by 3 or something. Like, do you still feel as confident as you would with Keenum? Or where are you at there?
This depends on how you define comfortable, right? Am I comfortable with Teddy Bridgewater, the quarterback, to get himself prepared for a game? Absolutely.
I think we know. I thought he's going to be mentally prepared.
Absolutely.
But I think
am I comfortable with him physically right now and the amount of reps he's had to be physically prepared and I guess to a degree mentally aware, like a different type of mental, like a left brain, right brain type thing? Right now, no. He threw 2 passes today. I thought one of them was a great pass. Michael Floyd just dropped it. Come on, Mike, catch that ball. And number 2 was that interception, which I was able to rationalize it in my head in a split second, basically. So, Am I comfortable with the idea of Teddy Bridgewater being the starter down the stretch if necessary? Yes, I am. Am I comfortable with the amount of reps he's had to date? And, is he rusty? For sure. For sure rusty. He needs to this is why he needed to play in this game, guys. Because he needed to be able to just get
He needed to play earlier. He needed to play earlier in this game.
Probably, yeah. He needed to get that moment out of the way, right? He needed to have that moment where he could kind of soak in how much all of us love and appreciate him as not just Teddy Bridgewater, the quarterback, but also Teddy Bridgewater, the human being, and how much he means to this franchise. I mean, again, I think you can still make an argument that he is the face of this franchise despite being a backup quarterback. I mean, everyone loves this guy, and if you don't love him, I don't know what's wrong with you, because he's not doing anything to hinder anyone else's performance. He's just trying to make the team better. That's what Teddy Bridgewater does, and you should get behind that. You need to get behind that. If you're a fan of the Vikings, get behind that thought. Stop being a dumb fan, please. I'm not calling you a dumb
person.
Teddy
Bridgewater is a walking example of you can't please everybody.
Yes.
Because it's just the way life is, and I think we need to some degree, at least I'm going to kind of stop worrying about the people that for some reason don't like him and just kind of be like, whatever. I mean, you can be that way if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was the same way. I look at some tweets, and we share tweets sometimes, Drew and I, and I'll send him a tweet and be like, "Oh, dude, this what." I mean, honestly, dude, if I follow you, like, you're susceptible to that type of treatment. Like, I'm gonna look at you sometimes and be like, "Absolutely not, dude." Like, that's it's my opinion. And you have your opinion, and I respect the fact that you have an opinion because you're a human being and you have that right to do so. But I also have the right as a human being to look at you and say, hey, that's a really dumb thing to say. And so sometimes it used to piss me off, I'll be honest with you. And over the course of this winning streak, or I guess not winning streak anymore, but this winning atmosphere, I suppose, I've been able to kind of come to terms with the fact that, yeah, you're right. You're not going to be able to please everybody. And Teddy Bridgewater, like you said, I mean, I think you put it perfectly, man. He is a walking, talking example of you can't please everybody. And as far as I'm concerned, he is a model citizen. And I have the utmost respect for the dude. I hope that he continues to do his thing despite people trying to find every reason to nitpick him not being a starting quarterback in the NFL or not being a good person or being a bad teammate or whatever the hell you saw on Twitter.com today or Facebook or whatever social media you use or whatever dumb fan you were sitting next to, whatever it was. Just ignore him, because I'm telling you, this is truth right here. This isn't, I just have I have faith that this is truth, that what I'm saying is truth. I don't have any basis for it. I don't have, I can't prove it to you. I don't have concrete evidence, but I'm telling you that this guy is a favorite in the locker room for a reason. And I'm telling you that if you want to buy into anything, buy into this team chemistry and buy into Teddy Bridgewater neutralizing, I suppose, a very dangerous situation at quarterback and allowing Case Keenum to go out there and do his thing and play confidently. I personally questioned the way that Mike Zimmer handled the quarterback situation, not naming a starting quarterback. And I thought that at the time that was a fairly objective take. But, as I've continued to look at it more and more, I think he's handling it perfectly. These guys are playing off of each other. They know that their job is not safe because they need to play well to earn their job every single week. And for me,
he's not required to name a starter, and so I think he's just kind of
he's doing his thing.
He's using that to his advantage, I think.
That's what makes Mike Zimmer, he's an innovator as a defensive scheme guy. He's a defensive scheme guy, innovator.
Scheme enthusiast. No, no. I don't know.
Whatever it is,
guy who schemes, defensive guy who schemes.
Yes, he's very good at that stuff, and that makes him great. But what really makes him as an innovative, contemporary head coach, in my opinion, is the way he handles the locker room and going against conventional theories of naming a starting quarterback. Week 2 of the preseason, just to get that out of the way to shut the media up. He doesn't care. I mean, he doesn't want to shut us up. He wants to shut us up, but he's going to do it with his execution as opposed to his
own methods, and not what he's told to do.
Dude, that's what makes Mike Zimmer great, man. He does his own thing, and yeah, it took him a long time to get a head coaching job, but do you think a lot of those teams would rather take him over the guy they decided to hire instead of him at this point? I certainly do. So let's move over to the defense. It's probably an easy transition here from from Mike Zimmer here. Obviously, his defense played phenomenal today. 7 points allowed, and you can, if you watch the game, you know that the reason why those 7 points were scored primarily were because Teddy Bridgewater threw an interception for at the 25-yard line or whatever it was, and set him up with great field position. And then the Bengals finally cashed in on a couple of the things that they were doing well today. This wasn't, this was a horrible performance from a Cincinnati perspective or a Cincinnati fan perspective, but there were some things that you could take away from this game. Again, that's a cliche, right? That's something that what I just said right there, that's something that a coach would tell you. But honestly, that's what happened. Like, that's what happened today. There are some things that the Bengals did well, and I'm sure that Marvin Lewis is going to look at those things and be like, we can continue to do these things against other teams as well. But let's start with Eric Kendricks, because how about Eric Kendricks? Play of the day, play of the year, possibly something along those lines. There's a lot of candidates for play of the year at this point, I believe. But how about that momentum shift on that pick six?
Yeah, I thought was, that's kind of, we've been looking for that defensive touchdown all season long, and and again, we've addressed that the difference between this defense and the 2016 defense is that last year's defense was kind of winning because of these big plays, these turnovers, these defensive touchdowns, etc. This year's defense is winning because they're playing sound, fundamental football and not allowing third downs, and they've been doing it despite not getting those turnovers or those big plays. And Eric Kendricks provided the Vikings with that today on the pick six. It seemed essentially that the Vikings knew the play that Cincinnati was going to run every time. Especially on third downs. That's kind of what's, it appeared as if was the case on every play for Cincinnati. And again, the Bengals are bad. Like, they are bad when they don't have their, when Joe Mixon's not in there, when they're missing guys, they are a bad football team. And I think they've kind of quit on Marvin Lewis as well. That probably played into it. But I think simply, this defense took care of the Bengals in a way that a defense of Minnesota's caliber should against an offense with such few playmakers and, a team that's essentially given up. For what it's worth, A.J. Green had 2 catches today for 30 yards. And I believe that was one on 4 targets. So, A.J. Green is a stud, and he has been producing all season, regardless. I guess despite of the fact that Andy Dalton's his quarterback, but nothing today. And I think what they have 170 total yards today.
100, I think 142 or something like that were passing yards too. So very low numbers all the way around.
Yeah, it was an ugly game for the Bengals, straight up. And I think a lot of obviously the Vikings defense is a big reason for that, but it's just, the Vikings took care of the Bengals the way they should have, and then some, I guess, is basically the way I'm going to put this game, because I thought everybody played, did their thing. Linval was stopping the run. Everson Griffin had a bunch of pressure. Just didn't actually get home. Brian Robinson had 2 sacks today. That was pretty fun to see.
Nice to see the other old man get his thing with Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter, by the way, had a sack as well.
Yes, he did.
It's nice to see Brian Robinson getting.
I will say Harrison Smith had one negative play, and that was that deep play to I think it was Brandon LaFell maybe. The one long play they had, Smith took a bad angle. Literally the one negative I can think of at this point. I love
when I think I said this in the last show, but I love when Harrison Smith makes mistakes, because I have to really try hard to find when he makes mistakes. So when he does do it, and I can literally be like, "Hey, Harrison Smith made a mistake because of this, this," it's like, yes, finally we got him. We finally got him, because that dude is
exposed him finally.
He has been exposed. He's been exposed for what he truly is.
All 4 bad plays he's had this year.
Right. Yeah. So. All around defensive performance. You mentioned Linval Joseph. He was having the time of his life out there. He was dancing and having a good time. And the starters all played very well, in my opinion. Roads were pretty much closed throughout, as far as I was concerned. You said Harrison Smith made 1 mistake today, which probably is considered a subpar game for him, because he normally makes 0.
True.
Anderson Dejo was fine. He came up and made a really big tackle on third and long situation where they dropped it off to, I believe it was Gio Bernard, and Sadejo came up and made a nice tackle.
By the way, so the Vikings are still a number 1 third down defense, right? They were going into today.
Yeah.
Bengals were 1 for 13 today.
Yeah.
So their one conversion was that long pass in which Smith took a bad angle, and I think Newman had, I believe on that play, Newman had him draped. Like, it was really, it was a good throw by Dalton for what it's worth, but I think Smith could have taken a better angle and disrupted that, and it would have been 0 for 13, which would have been, I mean, a little more fun. But I mean,
Terrence Newman also had an interception today. I actually missed that one like live. I missed it in real time because I was turned around talking to some dude. I don't know what I was doing. I honestly have no idea what I was doing, but I turned around, the Vikings had the football, and I leaned over to the guy next to me. I was like, what the hell just happened, man? He was like, Terrence Newman. I was like, oh, let's go, old man. Let's go, baby, you know. But
40 years old or whatever he is, 49 or I think 27,000 or something.
Yes, I don't know what it is with old. So for me, McKinnon, offensive player of the game. Defensive player of the game is Eric Kendricks, just because he had the crowd silencer, or not crowd silencer, crowd uproar, I suppose. If he was on the road, it would have been a crowd silencer, I suppose.
Yeah.
So those two guys really stood out for me as big players in this monster 27-point victory. I just want to reiterate this real quick. I love telling you guys when I'm right. I predicted a 28-point victory. So.
Oh, so you weren't right. You were wrong.
I was wrong, but I was pretty damn close. That's not bad. I mean, we're playing horseshoes when we're doing predictions, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Or grenades. Grenades, whatever synonym you want to use there to constitute that we're just trying to get close. So let's talk. I want to talk about special teams real quick. I didn't have this on the original docket for today, but I do want to mention J-Ron Kearse's name a couple times because, my God, that guy developing right in front of our very eyes? 2 big tackles. I saw Eric Wilson also had a really nice play. Eric Wilson, by the way, looks like Kentrell Brothers, like almost. Because I think he's number 50 and Brothers is number 40.
A more athletic and fast Kentrell Brothers.
Yeah, and he's taking better angles to the ball. Kai Forbath hit both of his field goals today. Ryan Quigley, man. Jeff Locke, who, you know, I mean.
That was cursed down that one punt, too, at the 2-yard line or whatever. So,
dude, it's a team sport, man. That's like, it's when you. It's so dumb when you try to look at like net average for punting and try to say that this punter is better than the other one.
Chris Cluey told us that on the show.
Chris Cluey told us that on the show.
Punting average is not a good way to measure, you know, how good a punter is, how effective a punter is.
Right. It's and people love volume stats, and then people are starting to get away from volume stats just because they're starting to realize that averages are better. But then at the same time, averages, when they're not weighted, they don't tell the whole story either sometimes. And you know, for special teams, like you said, as Chris Cluey told us, this is a perfect example today of where Ryan Quigley was great. He put the ball where it needed to be when he was punting it, and then J-Ron Kearse came down and did his thing. My God, this whole team is playing well right now. Like, it's truly unbelievable. I thought that Marcus Sherrills did a good job with what he had as a punt returner today. He wasn't given a ton of room to work, but there was a couple plays where he got 5 or 6 yards or something like that when there was really nothing there.
He's Mr. Reliable.
The cockroach, man. The cockroach.
Yes.
So I was overall, like you said, Harrison Smith had the one negative play, but I think the Vikings had this I think they put Cincinnati on their heels basically 3 or 4 plays into this game. They let them know who's boss immediately. And for Mike Zimmer, I mean, congratulations, coach. You know, you beat one of your primary mentors today. In Marvin Lewis. Obviously, you know, guys like Bill Parcells are very important to Mike Zimmer's career as well. But, you know, you work for Marvin Lewis for so many years and you finally get your opportunity to be a head coach. I mean, it's got to feel good to, you know, in a season that might be Marvin Lewis's last, I could see this being a year where, you know, Marvin Lewis decides to just straight up resign and, you know, maybe go into a consulting position with another team, maybe the Vikings hypothetically.
Call up Brad Childress.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, he had the opportunity to be a head coach for a long time. He couldn't quite get it done. Fairly successful getting his team to the postseason, but couldn't keep, you know, that rolling in the postseason. And again, that's one reason why I don't want to get too high and mighty on the Vikings right now, just because we don't know what Mike Zimmer can really do in the postseason. Obviously, he put the team in a position to win the last time they were there with Teddy Bridgewater and then, you know, wide left and whatnot. Yeah, so I think that this is a highlight moment for Mike Zimmer's career. Just looking at the situation, knocking down his mentor and basically showing, you know, they have a personal relationship, those two guys, Mike Zimmer and Marvin Lewis, and I'm sure Marvin Lewis is thrilled for Mike Zimmer and his success. So to compete against your former mentor and show him that you're as capable of having success as he was for so many years. That's a big moment for Mike Zimmer, and I know that he's 240 years old and he doesn't need my approval, but I'm very proud of him being my head coach right now, because I think that he's really doing just a heck of a job installing his own thing and being Mike Zimmer. No matter what people say, no matter what the media asks him, he just continues to be Mike Zimmer.
Yeah. I mean, it's you always you think about where the Bengals would be if they had chosen Mike Zimmer instead of Marvin Lewis in 2014. Well, they had made the change and fired Marvin Lewis, but then you think about the Vikings too. What this team would be like if it had hired Jay Gruden or any of those other candidates that came up in that season or that offseason. That would have changed everything. So it's certainly a good thing that Mike Zimmer is the head coach of the Vikings. But I think looking at the playoff picture now, the Vikings basically need another win to get that first round bye to essentially be the 2 seed. They can't really be the 1 seed unless the Eagles lose out, which I don't imagine happens. But Nick
Foles looks pretty good.
I mean, for what it's worth, the Giants almost beat him today. The 2-11 Giants came within essentially one conversion on a 4th and goal. If the Giants had scored that, they would have won. But I think the Vikings are settling in for that 2 seed, and if they can knock off the Packers next week at Lambeau, I think that's more or less theirs, and they'll have that first round bye. And then the only hurdle I see in the playoffs then would be going on the road. And if they'll have to go on the road at any time, it'll be going to Lincoln Financial Field, which one of the toughest places to play. But
for sure,
I'm excited for that potential matchup if it does come to fruition. That should be a very fun one.
Absolutely. This team is for real, folks. This is definitely a real football team for sure. I'm very comfortable saying that at this point, and I'm happy to say that as well. So buy into this football team. Don't be Rodney Harrison right now. Don't be forgetting about the Vikings just because of who their quarterback is. Look at the entire situation. Look at the landscape. Look at everything that they have accomplished so far and what they are capable of accomplishing. That's how you should evaluate power rankings. In my personal opinion, that's the best way to do it.
Power rankings are dumb in the first place.
They are. But the reason why they're dumb is because some opinions are better than others. That's why I like Colin Cowherd's power ranking system a lot, because I think that he has an educated opinion on the game. And while I don't always agree with him, I do, I know he does his homework. And so I think that, the herd hierarchy, if you're looking for power rankings that are, a good reflection of how the NFL actually is operating, I think that Colin Cowherd does a great job. And, I understand that there are moments where he is insufferable, and the reason I know that is because I know that there are moments where I'm insufferable. So I would say to tune into stuff like that. I think that he does a hell of a job with that kind of thing. So let's finish up here with our show questions for the week, mostly coming from Twitter, I think, today.
Yeah, we have our good friend Mr. Amazing at @keepit_so_real.
So real.
I wait for that every single time. I give a little cadence for you to bring that in. He says, "I hope Pat Shurmur is reading this, but I'll settle for BJ and Drew." But hey, maybe Pat Shurmur listens to our show, so maybe this, maybe he'll listen to this after all.
No.
Jet McKinnon needs to be more involved in the passing game. How do you feel about this statement, BJ? I would assume you agree after what happened today.
Yeah, I mean, it's how many receiving yards do you have today? Like 120 or something like that?
114 on 7 receptions.
Sounds about right. So I believe I saw a stat that popped up on the Jumbotron today that said that he's the first 100-yard receiving running back for the Vikings in God knows how long.
I believe it was, I actually saw this, Ontario Smith, 2004.
There you go. Okay.
Yep.
So
Ontario Smith,
yeah. So yeah, he definitely needs to be more involved in the passing game. I did see him split out wide a couple of times today. Let me just reiterate this one more time. I was watching from up top in the nosebleeds, so sometimes seeing the numbers on the back of the jersey isn't the easiest thing to do, but I definitely saw 21 split wide a couple times, and so I do think he's being more involved in the passing game. I think he's becoming, one of those offensive weapon type players as opposed to being a running back, and I like to see it. So yeah, Mr. Amazing. Again, as always, so real here. Speaking truths. Yeah, this guy needs to be more involved in the passing offense for sure.
We'll go to I gotta scroll through all these happy birthday tweets to you, which I probably should mention. It is your birthday today.
Woo!
I don't know how old you are. 25,
26, 26.
26, 26.
I'm
okay.
old as hell. Yeah.
Yeah. Compared to me, you are.
Comparatively, yes. It's all relative.
Yes. We'll go to @nriley_24_01. It says, fantastic game. Still got to be worried about some of these mistakes, shooting ourselves in the foot, like with the flags. Is that something you're concerned about? I personally, not terribly concerned because I think Rashad Hill is not a left tackle, and playing him there will inherently cause some problems.
Right.
But I thought the beginning of the game is where those penalties mostly happened, and then they kind of, as the game went on, the Vikings settled in. Nick Eason settled in particular. So I'm not terribly worried about that as long as Riley Reif is back at left tackle for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that Nick brings up a good point here that, at this point, what we saw last week is the only thing that can really kill this team so long as they maintain the same mentality that they've been going into every single week. So I guess those are the two. That's the first thing that can kill this team is if they get too high on themselves. They start, playing the stats game for themselves and start caring more about the wrong things. I mean, you guys know what I'm saying. And the other thing being mistakes, stupid mistakes. I gave Anthony Barr a ton of heat last week for that stupid 3rd and 16 penalty that was an automatic first down.
That's right.
Stuff like that. And, I think it was cleaned up to a degree this week. What's great about Mike Zimmer coach teams, in my opinion, is that they minimize the penalties to a degree, and a lot of penalties that they do get are very subjective calls. They don't get those objective penalties too often, with exception to Everson Griffin's essentially weekly offsides penalty. I don't think he had that today. I think it was Tom Johnson who jumped today. But that's really the only objective call that the Vikings get hit for. So if they continue to play smart with pass interference penalties, I mean, I know you were watching that Raiders-Cowboys game. The Cowboys gave the Raiders a gift with that 55-yard pass interference penalty with 30 seconds.
Part of that too, by the way, Crabtree just falling over, kind of, I'm sure helped that quite a bit.
He definitely sold it, and that's what good receivers do. I'm looking at you, Stephon Diggs. I know what you're doing out there. Yes, can penalties kill this team still? Or, mistakes, I guess, kill this team still? Absolutely. Mistakes can kill any team. That's why the cliche that everyone loves to use, any given Sunday, that's why it's any given Sunday, is because mistakes can kill a team essentially in a matter of 60 minutes. And sometimes it's a matter of 15 minutes or 3 minutes or 1 minute or 2 seconds. So, am I concerned about mistakes? Always. Always concerned about mistakes because we're human. We're human. They're going to make mistakes.
Okay. Yeah, you're going to use that answer to cheat. Okay. We'll move on then because we're going to go to we'll make this one semi-brief, but from Matt P at Matt P_BU. Says he watched some of the Eagles game today. He says the team's not very good. They're overrated, and they also get a lot of calls in their favor. But how do you feel about the Eagles now with Nick Foles? Are they a threat to the Vikings? How do you feel about that?
So that's some game tape that I still got to watch. To be honest with you, I didn't see Nick Foles'
right.
game.
I mean, I didn't expect you to.
Right. I want to throw that out there just because there's going to be someone. If I don't say that, there's going to be someone that say, "Well, you were at the Vikings game. How did you watch the Philadelphia game?" Well, yeah. Okay. So no, I haven't watched the game yet, but based off what I know about Nick Foles. So let me drop some facts on you here. Nick Foles was drafted by Andy Reid's staff, who Doug Peterson was on as a quarterback's coach at the time. When Andy Reid left for Kansas City, Doug Peterson went with him to Kansas City. Nick Foles decided to leave. He goes to L.A. Now, if you remember correctly, Nick Foles was very good in Philadelphia and very bad in L.A. Now, that means that he was good under Andy Reid's system and bad under Jeff Fisher's system. So, what can we learn from that? That Nick Foles probably is a quarterback that needs help around him, needs good coaching, like every other quarterback, with exception to maybe, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers, I guess, is really the only one.
There you go.
Even Tom Brady. People knock Tom Brady for having Bill Belichick as his coach. No, that's not a knock on Tom. It's not a knock on him. He's in a perfect system for his style. He's a 6th-round pick. Come on, Christ. Give the guy a break. But the point that I'm ramping up to here is, I'm still afraid of the Philadelphia Eagles because I think Doug Peterson's a good coach. I think he's a good players coach. He's got everyone working on the same frequency, I suppose. When Carson Wentz went down, this team didn't fold up. They actually came back and won that football game. And
I will say this: their defense giving up 440 something passing yards to Eli Manning today, and like Sterling Shepard and all these no name receivers. Like that to me, I mean that's
I love Sterling.
I'm less threatened by the Eagles now that I see them allow that kind of production from the Giants offense that all season has been very stagnant and is missing so many playmakers already. Right. But offensively, I think Philadelphia will be relatively the same, like you've been saying, with Nick Foles as compared to Carson Wentz.
So I know people are gonna, the casual fan, I suppose. I'm just gonna use the casual fan as, a synonym for the dumb fan, because then people are gonna think I'm calling him dumb, when really I'm not calling you dumb. I'm just saying that you don't watch enough football or something like that. Some opinions are better than others. That's kind of my thing now. Some people are going to look at the Nick Foles situation and him playing well and look at Carson Wentz and say that Carson Wentz is not a good quarterback or that he's a product of the system. That's the question that's going to pop up. And guys, I just want to reiterate this one more time. Everyone's a product of the system. Everyone's a product of their surroundings. That's why draft boards and big boards, honestly, it's more about fun than anything else, because you can't really predict how good a player is going to be until you see their landing spot as well. Obviously, teams try to draft guys that fit their situation well. Rick Spielman has done a hell of a job doing that. But then, there's teams like Cleveland who are just so dysfunctional that it doesn't matter who gets thrown in there, whether it's Manziel, Kaiser, whoever. Good luck. It's just that you need to the chemistry thing and the atmosphere thing is a lot more important than, this is something that I've learned over my 4 years of sports reporting, is that the chemistry and the situation and the coaching and all that stuff matters a hell of a lot more than people think. And I'm here to tell you that the Minnesota Vikings, the Mike Zimmer Minnesota Vikings, are a perfect example of that.
Right. Yeah. I agree with all of that. Final one from Hunter at Zimisota _ That's a clever at. Simply asking, favorite part about Sunday's game, especially you're gonna have I would assume a slightly different perspective being at the game, and I was watching on TV, but what was your favorite part about Sunday? Well, and your birthday, I guess.
Well, I mean, I love the football game front to back. Obviously, I watched, intently. I sobered up a ton during that game because I wasn't focused on my beer. I was focused on the football. But honestly, my favorite part was just hanging out with my friends again. We had a 40-person tailgate, something like that. People kind of walked over to our tailgate as well and started playing bags and stuff with us and taking fireball.
That's classic tailgate stuff.
Yeah, just everyone's friends because everyone can relate again, it's a situation thing. Would I be friends with some of the people out there if they weren't Vikings fans, about to go to a Vikings game? I imagine that I would probably hate a lot of those people because of something else in their life. But today, everyone shared the same opinion, and we had a hell of a good time. So, I would say probably taking polls and playing Flip Cup was my
that video you tweeted on this morning of Flip Cup. That looked pretty fun. I was a little bit jealous there for a little bit there.
We definitely had a good time, that's for sure. What was your favorite moment from the sitting at home watching on TV perspective?
Yeah. I just the Case Keenum, leading the Teddy chants for the team. Yeah. Watching guys like Stephon Diggs and the whole team was kind of giving the crowd the okay to get rowdy. Trying to get them up on their feet, that type of thing. Which is funny because Teddy's out there on the field struggling to hear the play call. But that was definitely my favorite part. It's just the support that Teddy Bridgewater got from everybody in the stadium as he entered the game, only to immediately throw an interception. But I guess I really did not need to add that part. Instead, I'll hand it over to you to conclude because that's kind of your thing. Except for that, yeah. This is your thing is concluding the show and telling everybody to subscribe and to review on iTunes and Stitcher and
hit the like button.
Hit the like button on YouTube. Yeah, tell your friends about the YouTube page.
Tell your dad.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Tell your dad. Tell your dad about our show.
Please tell your dad. Tell my dad. Honestly, please tell my dad. Anyways, for our YouTube viewers, here are the show notes for today. Not my best drawing performance to date. As Drew just said, you can find us on iTunes, CastBox, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, YouTube. If you like watching us talk, YouTube's the place to go. If you like listening to us talk, I personally recommend iTunes, Stitcher, and Castbox. But we also are available on iHeartRadio and Google Play, stuff like that. You know, it's I'm really excited to be a part of this team. I'm really excited to be, you know, in my own way, a part of Vikings Nation for, you know, doing this show 3 times a week, and we hope that you guys will continue to tune in. So make sure
just a heads up. Again, I should let the listeners know I'll be leaving for Florida this week for a few days down to see with my family, see my grandma. So scheduling may or may not be an issue. We're kind of going to play that, you know, on the fly here this week. So follow us on Twitter at VikingsATLPod for updates on that. For now, though, plan on the usual Wednesday show, and then our preview might be a day early just because of the Saturday game as well. So, but we'll
if we have any issues with that, like if Drew, you know, this is a big thing for us, you know, why we are able to develop chemistry together is because you know, as quote Drew's boss, I like to tell Drew to go out and have fun. That's more important to me as a college kid, for him to go out and have fun. So you might get a guest host next week. I have zero idea who that might be, but that's something to possibly keep in mind. If you have any suggestions, if there's anyone that, you know, you would like to see fill in for Drew for a one-day spot, a spot starter, if you will.
Chris Thomason.
Let us know on Twitter, like Drew said, Vikings ATL Pod. Myself, Robert Reidell, Reidell, Drew Mahowald, Mahowald, and you can hit us up. We love answering your questions. We love talking thoughts with you, and we love your jokes. All the gifts today, the birthday stuff was amazing. I appreciate all of that stuff. My birthday is not very important to me. I'll be honest with you. It's just another day that basically I get more attention than I usually do on that day, and that's obviously fun for anyone. So you guys made me feel special today, so I appreciate that. And yeah, like Drew said, we'll catch you on Wednesday with some sort of upon review segment and that kind of stuff. So looking forward to talking to you guys between then, and hope you guys tune in on Wednesday. And so enjoy your NFC North champion, Minnesota Vikings, and we will talk to you guys later on this week.